Hello, let's wait for 5 minutes. See if we have any other person. Okay, okay, let's get started. And today we are going to have a check of the specification of this assignment, and we will also play around with the demo code. Of course, we are also going to mention about some Python basics, but I want to leave this part to Friday. And yes, we are going to play with the UDP socket, so we can try to send some file or strings. Let's get started. For the specifications, you may want to have a check of the specification page at first, because it's pretty long, but all you need to do, maybe just come to the section 9 marking policy, so you will know how will we test your program. Basically, you need to write two different programs. The first one is the receiver, and it will accept some parameters like this. The first one is the port number for the receiver, and the second one is the port number for the sender, and the file name of the text file. And don't worry about this 20 right now. And the sender is the same. We will input two different ports, one for the sender, another for the receiver. And then we specify the text file and the max window and the timeout. So this one should be an integer in milliseconds, but you don't need to worry about this one, you know. So now you have some idea, like there are two programs and they are using the UDP connection to connect with each other. It's like this. We have a file need to be sent, and we can use the sender to read the file. So we read the file to the sender, and it will divide the text file into different UDP packets with some headers, and then we send the packet, and the receiver will be able to receive the packet and then reply the acknowledgement. So it will have some transmission from the receiver to the sender side. And of course, if the packet lost, and the sender will be able to have a timer and then resend the packet to the receiver. And finally, we have all the packets, then the receiver will combining all the packets and save into a file, into the file that we want. And that's it. The logic is pretty easy. So we just need to have a two program, the sender and receiver. They can send a text file, and that's it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. The only hard point is we need to use the UDPs to do all this stuff. If we are using the TCP, it will be super easy and simple. But for the UDP, we need to worry about the timeout, and we also need to worry about the packet drop, because the UDP is not reliable. So we will not know if we if the packet arrive or not. And that's the key point. Okay, so we come to the overview slides. The slide, you can have a quick look if you haven't have a look of it right now. This one. We also have a video for this, so you can go through with this slide with the video. Basically, just do some introduction for the assignment, some key functions, and what is the structure, and the design, and how to get started. Marking criteria as well. So you can see we have some tests and how to start. And for this one, because today we are mainly focused on how to get started, so we will focus on this page. You can also have a check of this page by yourself. So I've already put it in my slides. So today we have 3 different tasks. The first one is to send a string, and then the receiver will be able to receive the string and save into files. And the second one is to send a text file, and then we can also reply the acknowledgement. Actually, in the demo code, the receiver can reply the acknowledgement already. So we don't need to do this part. We just need to save it into files. And in the task 3, we need to implement a timer for in the sender side. So we will know which one is timeout and which one have not. So today we are mainly focused on these 3 stuff, and we will go through the task one by one. But before this page, I also mentioned some Python basics that you may want to know before you do the programming. The first one is to do the know how to read and write the text file in Python. So it's pretty straightforward and easy. Let me show you in here. The read file, you can have a quick screenshot for this one. That's how we read the file and write the file. And the second one is the socket library, because we have already know how to use the socket library to do the lab 2, 3, and 4. So I'm not going to do it again, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. Just use the socket library and initialize it, and we use the receive from function and the send to function to send and receive the messages. And the class and this regular expression and the login. The class, so for this part of Python basics, I don't want to explain too much at today, as I plan to have some detailed explanation on Friday session. So we will just have a quick look of how the class works. For example, this one, we can have a main class and have a child class, and that's how we use it. And the regular expression can also help us to match the strings along a long text, and this might be useful for the header matching. For example, here, this function, these 2 lines can help us to identify the name and the age of this long sentence. And the logging is also pretty simple and straightforward. Just basically like the print function in Python, but by using the logging library, you will be able to save it as a file instead of printing it out. For example, like this, I changed the specification in the basic config here, so I can run it, and it will help us to write the log to this file, as you can see here, and it will be useful for our assignment. And the multi-threading is, you don't need to worry about this part too much, as we have already done it for you in the sender side. The thing I want to mention here is how can we create a thread and how can we start it? As you can see here, this is the function I have written in here. This function will allow us to print from 1 to 10 in the console. And each second we will print only 1 digit. And in here, I create two different threads. The first thread will print from 0 to 10, and the second one will print from 0 to 20. You can see the arguments here. It's from 0 to 20. And if we run the program, you can see the thread 1 and thread 2 are running together. They are like running simultaneously. That's how it works. And the first thread is AND because we only print 10 digits for the thread 1, but thread 2 is still working. And that's how we use the multi-threading stuff. So don't worry too much. As you can see here, the threading stuff is pretty easy and straightforward here. And we will have more detailed explanation on Friday session. But today I just want to focus more on the task 0 to task 3. And yes, of course, if you have any question in this part, just let me know so I can help you with that. So we come to the task 0 at first. Let's play around with the demo code. The demo code is in here. The first thing we want to know in here is to have a check of the main logic in the template code. In the receiver, you can see we have the setting for the login. And after this is some error checking for the user input. For example, I will try to run it without any parameters. It will say the wrong usage for this one. Because I am using an IDE, this one is PyCharm, and you can also use VS Code. It's the same. So you want to put some parameters to run this file. I have write some nodes on the top of the code. For example, if you are running on the console, you can run it like this. Otherwise, you can just simply copy the config and then go to the configuration and put the parameters in here. Then save it and we can run it. Okay, looks good. Only one usage. And let's try to do the sender as well. So we try to run it here and print out. We need to enter the parameters. So we just copy the parameters here and then we paste and we run the receiver. The sender is using the address. Seems we have a wrong port number here. Let me try to change this one to another number like 9001 and 10,001. Okay, so the sender is running right now. This one should be the receiver. Strange. But never mind. Let's try to configure this one. Okay. We also need to change the phone number to 1000, 10,001 and 9001. Yeah. So we're just using so the sender and receiver should have the matching port number in here. Let's try to rerun it and put it in parallel. So you can see. Now we can send the tags from the sender to the receiver. And I think that's how we use the demo code. And after this, let's try to do the task 1. Okay, now we need to send a string to the receiver and save the string into files. So we can have a quick look of the functions for the sender and receiver at first. For the receiver, the function is pretty easy. So in the init function, we basically just save all the parameters into the objects, into the class. As you can see here, we are saving stuff and we are trying to initialize the socket for the receiver. And in here, in the run function, which is the main logic of the receiver, we will have a while true loop and keep listening for the incoming message. If we have any incoming message, then we will just print it out in the log. And we will also write the stuff into the file. So your demo code may be slightly different as mine, as I add this 2 row in here. This helps us to write the stuff in the receiver side, and we can have a check of it later. So I add 2 additional lines in here. And this code will be available on the GitHub link later. I will upload to our GitHub link after this session. And in here you can see, after we receive the information, then we just simply reply a message of acknowledgement in here. And we also need to send it to the client side, to the sender side. So that's the logic of the receiver. So every time you run the sender, then you will be able to see how does this work. And in the sender, we have a init function as well. Firstly, we just save the parameters into the class, including the port number and address, and then we will initialize the UDP socket as well, because in the sender side, we not only need to send the packet, but also we need to receive the packet, right? Because we need to listen for the acknowledgement from the receiver side, which means you can consider the sender is also a server waiting for the message from the receiver. So that's the reason we have the listen thread in here. Listen thread, we create a subthread for the sender and running the subthread at the background, which will allow us to send some packets. And at the meantime, we are listening for the acknowledgement. So we can come to the listen function in the sender side. This is the listen function. As you can see here, it's basically the same as this one in the receiver side, because you can imagine the sender is also a server right now. It's waiting for the acknowledgement message from the receiver side. So you can see we have a while true loop, and we are listening for the incoming message from the receiver, and we will print the message out if we get any acknowledgement from the receiver. Okay, that's it. That's the main logic, initialization logic of the sender. And then we will have a PTP open and PTP send function and PTP close function. This two part is basically empty right now because we want you to follow the specification and fill some code into these two functions. Basically, it doesn't have any logic. It just have a message, and then we send the message to the receiver side. And in the run function, we just run the stuff one by one. Here, I have done some modification. I just merge the open and PTP send function into one because I don't. I just want to save time in this part, because we are doing the demonstration. So we only have two different functions in the run here. So firstly, we open the file and then we send a file. Then we close the connection. And that's it. That's the main logic. We just open the file and then we send a file. Okay, so let me rerun the file and see how it goes. As you can see here, if we run the file like this, we will send this message, greetings, to the receiver side. So now, what if I want to open a file and then send the file? We can do it like this. We have the random1.txt. This file is available in the assignment web page in WebCMS. So we want you to send this large file right now. So we can use the file IO function, which is the open one. Open the file and with the mode RB, then we send the content to the receiver side and see how it goes. And here we only read 1000 bytes while we have 6000 bytes in this file. So we may need to send it in several times. As you can see here, we send the stuff to here and it got it, and we got the acknowledgement. So how about let's just have a for loop to send them all, maybe a while loop, so we can try to send all the stuff to the server side, to the receiver side. So we just have a while true, and we keep reading. And if we have the content, then we send the stuff. Right? Otherwise, we will break this stuff and we can print the message in here, logging.debug. In here, we are using logging debug instead of print function to do the debugging, because in the logging, it's easier to control the output, and it's very easy to delete the debug information. And we will have a detailed demonstration on Friday session. In here, you just need to know we are using debug instead of print. So we can say packet all sent, and maybe we need a head counter. We send this much packet and done. we want to know how many packets do we have, and we need to have a counter here. So maybe have the I in here, I equal to 0 if content, then I plus 1. Else we print the I message. Okay, that looks good. And see how it goes. And in the receiver side, we do not do any kind of specification right now. And let's try to do it. Okay, it says we have sent 7 packets. And you can see they are very long, so we are not sure this one is received successfully or not. Maybe run it again. And as we can see here, there's a message here. Existing connection was. So we are not pretty sure if the file is complete or not. Maybe we also need to have a counter in the left hand side, the receiver side, so it can help us to print the message. Like in here, yes. So for this one, send a message like this. Instead of printing the message, we only print the length of the message. We only print the length and see how it goes. It will be shorter. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 packets, but at the end of it, we have some error in here because the sender side did not close the socket properly, I reckon. So we need to debug in here. In here, we have the error in here. So if it's closed, then we just need to close it properly. And connection reset error. So we can have a try. Yeah, we can try and accept if we have this error, then we can just continue. And don't worry about this part. And let's see. Okay. Okay, now it's working. So that's how we catch the exception and then ignore it. Just pay attention that we are using continue because we don't execute the other stuff at the end of the code. Yeah, so if you have any question in this part, please let me know so I can have more detailed explanation. But now, as you can see, we can send the packet to the receiver side. Then we have the code to write it. Let's see how does this work. I think it's file to write. File to write? No. File received. Yes, this one. This one is the file. It is 700 in here. But for this one, we have 6,700, which means we only get the last packet saved and all the stuff are dropped. So we may need to do some modification in this part with this one. Maybe just this one, like if A plus A, which means added append added at the end of it. So let's try to do it again. Firstly I just need to delete all the stuff in the receiver side, and then I run the sender. Okay, send 7 packets, and now in the receiver side, still have 700. So maybe something wrong in here. Okay, only 700. Pretty strange. I need to figure this out. Hmm. So seven packets without any issue. And but in this part, we have only 700, which means we override the stuff. Maybe I delete the plus in here and delete the file, and we run the file again. Still 700. If we can get this much message, then I think there's something wrong with the write function in here. Do you have any idea? Okay, let's try to do in this way. We are writing with this one, and then we decode the stuff. Okay, now it works. I think it is because of the mode here, but I don't actually want to transferring the byte to strings. Let me figure this out, how to make sure we can use the bytes instead of strings. As you can see here, I use the mode A, which means append, and you can also use A plus. If we don't have the file, then we create it. For example, I delete this file and rerun the receiver and run the sender. Then we will have a file to receive in here. And then we have the file 6,700. And we delete it again and run it, and we will have a file again. It's still correct. But we are not sure if the order is correct right now, because in the sender side, for now it's okay because you usually have the correct order. But like we will have a function that may interrupt this, and we have some packet lost in the future in the sender, in the receiver side. So this may not work. Then that's the thing we want to pay attention in the future. But for now, it is working. And this is the very basic model of the sender and receiver right now. Now it can send the packet, and it can receive the packet and save it into the file. All you need to do next is to add a timer in the sender side. For example, because in the receiver, we will have a parameters called reverse loss probability and forward loss probability. and we will randomly drop the packets. But I'm not going to show you how can we do this. As we are in the week 7, I want you to do this one by yourself. But just for example, I use the random, like in here, maybe in here. When we get an incoming message, and we drop the packet in here, randomly drop the packet. So we if random dot, let's say this one, 1 to 100 larger than 10. So which means we have around 90% of chance larger than 10. So 90% of chance, 90%. We will drop the packets. Then we just continue, which means we drop all the stuff we have received. And now see how it goes. Now we have a sender can send the stuff, and let's delete it and run it. And you can see we have, oh, we got everything. That's strange. Let me try to do it again. I still get everything. So this one does not work. So now I want to debug this one. I just click the breakpoint and close the session, run the debug. So I will be able to know what is the value for this. Sorry. And now we can look here. Okay, so this value larger than 10. Now we come to continue. Then we try. Yes. Yeah, looks good. Have no error. But why do we have everything in here? That's pretty strange. If we have the incoming message, then we drop it. And let's try to run this one again. Okay. Okay, now looks good. We send the 7 packets, and we also want to log in the debug, drop a packet. We close it, and we rerun the receive templates, and rerun the sender. You can see we drop, and we only write 700 at the end. Is it correct? Yes. Now we can see only 700 in the file. We drop, and we only get 1 successfully saved. So now we want to implement a timer in the sender side, because as you can see here, we only get 1 acknowledgement. And if I change it to 50, like 50%, then we will drop the packet. And we are likely to get some like 2 acknowledgements. But in here, why did I only get 1 acknowledgement here? That's pretty strange. Running again. we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We should have 4 stuff printed out, but we only get 1 acknowledgement. So maybe in here, before we close the program, let's wait for a few seconds. So time.sleep, let's wait for 3 seconds. So make sure we can have the reply. But in your program, make sure you do not use this one because we are doing the demonstration. So we just want to save time to get all the stuff printed out. In here, maybe you want to have a if command to control if we want to close the program or not. It seems we will only get 1 stuff in the listen function. While this one is not active. Okay, okay. Maybe while true. Now it works. So it will keep listening, but now we have a new problem. Now we will not able to close the sender templates. Did you see that? It's still running and it will use our port number and it will not close automatically right now. So not maybe we still need to fix this one. We just move the time.sleep to here. Time.sleep 3. Okay. And it can also maybe can also close, hopefully. Okay, does not really work. So you need to figure this out how to solve this problem, just a small stuff. But now you can see we can get acknowledgement from the receiver side. So the next task is to you to add the sequence number for every packet. In here, we only know what is it is the acknowledgement, but we are not sure this is the acknowledgement for which packet. So you need to add an ID for every packet. So in the acknowledgement, then we will be able to identify which acknowledgement is this. And now you can try to play with the code and see how it goes. Maybe add some timer and acknowledgement number and other stuff. And let me know if you have any trouble. Can you explain how the sleep works? Are you talking about sleeping here in the clothes? So you can see we have a is active variables in here to control when should we close the listen function, which is the subthread in the sender side. So in this function, we want to close the socket as well as all the subthreads in here. And actually, we forgot to close the socket, so we should add sender socket dot close. Actually, we need to close the socket as well. And in here, we also want to close the subthread. So we specify this status as not active. Then in this while loop, this will be while false. Then it will close the listen loop. So this loop will be stopped. And in here we specify sleep for 3 seconds, because if I didn't specify this, it may not be able to get the acknowledgement from the receiver side. For example, if I delete this one and I run it again, you can see we have some error on both sides. Maybe the error is caused by this one. I just run it again. You can see we can only get one acknowledgement because we close our packet, we close our threads at this time. So after this, we just close our thread and we are not able to get a new message anymore. So we want to wait for, let's say, 1 second should be enough, and run it. You can see now we can get all the acknowledgements for now. And now your task is to add more stuff into the sender side, because we want to specify what is the like which packet have we got the acknowledgement and which one is lost. If we lost, then we need to resend it, right? So you may want to have a dictionary in here. Maybe in here, before you send the stuff, maybe in here, before you send the stuff, you add it into the dictionary. Let's say you have a sequence number or ID. Let's say ID, we start from 0. Maybe we can just use the I. It's also our counter, right? So we just start from 0 and start from 0, index 0. So we can use dictionary, like a sequence dictionary, go to the dictionary like this. And go to the value of I, we go to, we can use the time or daytime, maybe like this. We'll add the time to the dictionary so we can know how long does it take to get the acknowledgement. And at the end of it, we can print it out. Let's try to print this one. Print sequence to save it as self.sequence like this. And we need to use the login.debug instead of print. It's not defined. Okay, try again. Okay, now you can see this is the timestamp. May I change it to the daytime so you can easily understand it? So I just change the this one to time.c time. So packet 0 is sent at this time and send it this time, send it this time. But because they are the speed is pretty fast, so you cannot identify what is the difference between them, right? In seconds, we send them all at the same second. So we want to use the timestamp to identify what is the difference. Now you can see they do have some difference. Oh, they don't. I'm sorry, it's too quick. But in the complete version in the receiver side, we may have some delay on the receiver side. So you can identify some difference in this part. But don't worry, we send it at the same time. Does not really matter. It's okay. We send them all at the same time. Does not really matter. But the key is we also need to send the value of the ID to the receiver side. So in the future, when we send the acknowledgement, we can specify when did we get this one. Act for ID as so we need to send the ID to the receiver side. Let's say packet X. We need to do this one right now. So now you need to replace the X with this ID number. So now you have some idea. We need to send the I value from the sender side to the receive side as well with the code, with the content. So maybe you want to merge, you put I to the content and see how it goes. Okay. A question here. You want to show your code, you have an error on the timeout. It's not recommended to show the code, but maybe later. When we stop the recording, I will. You can show your code, but make sure you do not show everything in your code. Otherwise, other person can copy your code. Yeah, and that's all the content I want to show for today. I will upload the demo code we play with to the GitHub link. You will be able to visit the stuff very soon. I will also send the GitHub link to here. This is the GitHub page. I will put everything in here. You can have a check. I will put the codes in this link. You will be able to check it later. And here are the links. I will send it to the chat. And yeah, and that's it for today. We go through how to send a file and how to send a string, reply egg, and save it to the file. And of course, now we are able to send a large TXT file. But we didn't complete the timer yet. But I have shown some idea to you. Now you can try to do a timer by yourself. And yeah, I will stop the recording right now. But for the Friday session, I will show some Python basics. I will mainly focus on this part. the basics for Python. We will play with the code that I show in here. We will play with this kind of code. If you feel uncomfortable with this kind of stuff, like this kind of library, you can also come to the Friday session. We will play around with the basic Python. And that's it for today. We still have around 40 minutes, so you can ask any question if you have. And thanks for coming. Yeah. Feel free to leave if you have no question. Okay, thanks. Bye. See you next week. Now I will stop the sharing and stop the recording so you can share your code if you want, but make sure you do not share everything in your code. We can just have a look of a bug, but I'm not going to teach you how to do the programming, but I can help you to have a look of the problem of the code.